Hello, my YouTube friends, and happy Tuesday. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a nice long weekend for Martin Luther King Day, as well as we had the inauguration. I don't know if anybody watched it. I watched some of it. Super boring in a lot of ways, but still interesting to watch what's going on. And how about Boeing? And how about Target? And even Whirlpool? Like the market seems to be chugging along, doing great. News is scary. The perfect things going on. That's what I love to see. Now, as always, not financial advice. Anything I talk about in these videos, please just use as entertainment purposes only and reach out to your financial planner for any financial decisions you guys make. I'm just sharing what works for me and what I do in the accounts that I pay attention to. I think I talked a little bit about I've been trading micro strategies, which has been a lot of fun. I'm primarily selling options on it, so if you guys are interested and want to learn more about selling options and what I've been doing in MicroStrategies, just make a comment in the comment box and maybe I'll do a video specifically on that.
Want to make your money work harder? Enjoy another video with Adam Kahn, the rational investor, on stocks, real estate, and crypto. Subscribe now for your weekly dose of investment insights and hopefully learn a thing or two.
The reason I chose MicroStrategies for the most part is because the volatility index is pretty high, which causes the options to be pretty valuable, and it allows me to sell them and collect a lot of premium. Just what I like about the stock. Now, to be fair, what I'm doing in them is a lot of what I say I don't like about the yield max funds like TSLY and CONY, partially because I don't want anyone else to be in control of those types of trades, and I also think it's pretty risky strategy. And I don't love the sales pitch of how they sell it, because what they're selling them as is good dividend yield and good returns that people could be able to use towards retirement. The problem is, I don't think the people buying them who are going into retirement are going to recognize how super risky they are. And that's not the goal when you get to retirement. Now, at least for me, like as I get older, I want less risk on the table. I want to be able to live off dividends or have some money coming in so I don't need to rely on the government and Social Security and things of that nature. And I sure don't want to be putting it in something that has high risk where I could potentially lose the money that's invested. And that's what I really hate about those yield max funds. The funny thing is as I said, that's essentially what I'm doing with the trades that I'm putting on, which is why all the time I constantly say you need to do what works for you, because I don't want people taking on the risk that I take on unless they're well aware of the risk they're taking and they're comfortable doing it and they understand it. If that's the case and somebody understands it, that's great. I was watching somebody's video the other day and he made a comment in the video that, people ask him all the time, like, because he trades or claims he trades for a living, is that gambling? And I used to have this conversation with my parents, and quite honestly, I gave the wrong answer because it is. And I used to argue with them that no, it isn't. And the reality is, if you look up the definition of gambling, and I'm just talking about the definition, I'm not talking about if somebody's profitable or not profitable or good at trading or potentially bad at trading. But gambling is the act of placing a bet for money with the potential of losing or winning money. That definition for sure fits trading stocks. You are placing a bet, playing a game with the outcome of potentially either making or losing money. Gambling definition. Now, I wasn't trying to argue with him as to whether he's good at it. He made a comment about, well, then you're gambling when you're crossing the street. No, there's no money involved in crossing the street unless you're placing a bet. If you get run over by a bus, that is bad luck. That is not gambling. And trading is essentially some form of gambling, different than blackjack, different than other things, different odds. And if you're good at it, great. I do want to talk about Boeing a little bit today because it's had a really nice rebound and it goes to what I'm talking about with them. What I'm hoping about in the future going forward with Boeing is it's not in the news anymore. And if Boeing just manages to stay out of the news and not have some new negative thing come out, all that selling pressure from all of that bad news is finally going to be done. Like anybody who was worried about it, anybody who thought they were going out of business, anybody who had any issues with the crashes, the CEO being changed, the strikes, and all of those things, odds are they've already sold Boeing at this point. So as long as they just manage to keep quiet, go about their business, and do things as they normally do, the stock should continue to drift higher. My target price on it is about $240 to $260 a share, which is a really nice move from where it is already when it's already rebounded significantly. That's why I like Boeing so much. When there's bad news on any really good company, and we can argue whether Boeing's really good or not really good, and I'll make my cases to the things that I like about the company, but anytime that there's really significant bad news on a really good company, at some point that bad news fades. Similar like Google. Eventually, all the stuff with the Department of Justice and those lawsuits, like that stuff is going to fade and no longer be in the news. And they'll be able to go about business, continue to focus on earnings, which is what they're doing the whole time, despite the investors worrying about the news story and what's going on that's negative. But once that negative blanket ends, like it's over and things go back to normal and people focus on the earnings and the company goes about their business. That's one of the things that I love about Boeing is that negative news seems to be finished at this point. I hope that we're not going to have any more planes crash. I hope that the employees figure out that strike and move forward so we don't have additional problems with it. I just hope that that moves on. And then what I do like is, as an American, consumer plane manufacturer, I don't think the government is going to want them to not be in business and have real problems. It's like US Steel, even just by the name. Like they're going to fight to make sure that Boeing is still the one making, Air Force One and things like that. And then 40% of their business is government contracts. So I think there's going to be a lot of support for them to stay in business and continue to thrive. That's what I really love about Boeing. It's not that I think they're the greatest company ever or anything like that. I just saw the negative news piling on and piling on and piling on, and I know that eventually that fades away. I'd feel the same way about Intel, but I also worry that Intel is losing market share and has different types of competition. So I'm watching it but staying away from it because I think it's a different situation. You still have to listen to the news and pay attention and make your judgment as to you think that this is something they rebound from. I feel the same thing about Walgreens. Like, I don't know. I just every time I go past one, they don't look like the best run company. And while I think it could be a really good time because again the news on them is so negative, maybe it fades away and they're able to pay dividends, which is what they're such a great stock about. Maybe they rebound as well. But I'm not as attracted to it as I am Boeing. Target as well. Like the news on Target was kind of silly. When people get uptight about, oh, they've gone woke or they're supporting a side in a war, and people start making decisions about a company based on some political or whatever they determine to be a reason is to stop shopping there. Similar to other things in time that gets forgotten, people go back to where they need to shop, they get the things they want to get. And if they went to Target before, eventually they forget about it and move on. Sure, there's probably a small faction that holds a grudge and keeps it that way forever. But I'll go back to when Chipotle was having problems in the kitchen with tainted food, and then they were finding mice or something in some of the kitchens or whatever it was, and the stock collapsed and it made the news. And I had friends and I even had family members that were talking about, I'll never go to Chipotle again. And I bought some of the stock. And my brother and I kind of talked about it at the time and almost joked about, yeah, give it a year or two. They'll forget. They'll start going back to Chipotle. And sure enough, I don't even think it took a year. They like Chipotle. And eventually they get that out of their head. They forget that that goes on. And if I brought it up today, they'd look at me confused and be like, oh, Chipotle had problems like that? I don't even remember. That'll be the same thing in my mind, at least my opinion, with Boeing. That's why I've been talking about it so much on the channel. I actually love the people in the comments who hate it and tell me it's going to zero and have all the things that they hate about the company because typically it's what's already in the news. And when things are already in the news, it's priced into the stock. And that's what I tend to look for. I want to own companies for a minimum of 2 years, if not 10 years. And when they're going to be discounted is when the news is talking things that are negative, not when things are wonderful and they're going higher and doing just great. So that's my thought on it. And then my general thought on the economy, I don't see any difference when the administrations change. I hope that regulations ease up and business continues to boom, but I think the economy is doing just fine. Like every time I go out, places are jam packed. Things are busy. My wife and I went out and she looked at me and she goes, what bad economy are people talking about? These restaurants have lines out the door, they're packed. My God, we went to the Win because I have some points on there. I play poker sometimes, and we were going to go to the buffet for dinner one night. There was a 2 hour wait to get in there. Now she thinks I'm nuts. I mean, they already charge $80 a person to get in there. I told her I thought they need to raise the price to $120 per person. And her response was, well, nobody would go there if they charged that much. And I'm looking at the line thinking, it's a 2 hour wait right now at $80. My guess is if they raise it to 120, knocks it down to a 45-minute wait, but they'll still be quite busy. There's obvious demand. And to me, supply, demand, you raise prices when things are in demand. Just the way that I think. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a great week. I hope you're doing well with Bitcoin. I've been very excited to see that go higher. I know some of you hate Bitcoin, but I think it's something that you want. It's a big risk, so I wouldn't put much in there. But I do think it's worth being on board because if the zealots are correct, I mean, who knows how far it'll go? And God forbid the government makes it part of their reserves. Like then if you had Russia and China start jumping in, like there's no number to me that doesn't make sense. I think some of the videos people put out there are kind of funny because you can argue anything. So when they say, Bitcoin a million or 10 million, or I don't care if it's a billion, nobody could argue it other than having an opinion because, okay, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I don't think it's a realistic price target. And then judging that it's been making this percent over this many years, so I expect it to continue doing that forward, is kind of silly because it has no earnings. Like, I understand people making arguments of like if it's going to take over gold, gold is 9 times the value in terms of market cap of what it is. But to simply state you think it's going higher because that's what it did in the past, and there's really no fundamentals behind it, is what I think the people who are negative against it have trouble understanding. Now, I think it's got some real potential. I think it's a kind of neat thing. And I hope that I live long enough to get to see what happens with that stuff because it's very exciting and I think it's kind of neat. And I think a world of digital currency makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I forgot what I was reading about how much money there is in circulation that's counterfeit, and that would get rid of all of that. There could be all sorts of implications and things they could do to make taxes a lot easier and not worry about what you're spending on because they can just worry about what you spent and kind of take that into account to fix our budgets and everything else. I see tons of avenues of things they can do to really improve the monetary system by going to a digital currency, whether that's Bitcoin or using Tether or something else. So I just think it's cool and I'm excited to see what the future brings. Anyway, do me a favor if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Also, smash that like button. You guys have no idea how much that does for the channel. Make some comments in the comment section. I really do appreciate that. I hope you guys had a great new year, and I hope this year started out great as well. Talk to you soon.